Across the vast and vibrant landscapes of Africa, a silent crisis unfolds. It doesn't make headlines with the same urgency as famine or war, but its impact is no less devastating. This crisis operates in the shadows, a thief in the night stealing not material possessions but something far more precious: opportunity. This thief is corruption, and its grip on Africa's future is a stranglehold, suffocating the dreams and aspirations of millions. Every year, an estimated $150 billion disappears from Africa's coffers, vanishing into a labyrinth of shell corporations, inflated contracts, and unscrupulous hands. This staggering sum represents more than just lost revenue. It represents a stolen future. It's a tragic paradox. Africa, a continent brimming with potential youthful populations, abundant resources, and a spirit of innovation, finds itself held back by a force that operates from within. This is not a story of despair but a call to action. It's time to shed light on this pervasive issue, to expose the mechanisms of corruption and empower a new generation to rise up and reclaim their stolen future. It's time to amplify the voices of Africa's youth, who are increasingly raising their voices, demanding accountability, and working to build a brighter future for their continent. To comprehend the true cost of corruption, we must move beyond the staggering statistics and delve into the human stories behind the numbers. Imagine being a young entrepreneur in Nigeria, fueled by a groundbreaking idea that could revolutionize your community. You've poured your heart and soul into developing a business plan, securing funding, and navigating the complex web of bureaucracy. Just when you think you're about to realize your dream, you hit a wall, a seemingly insurmountable barrier in the form of a corrupt official. This official, entrusted with the power to grant permits and licenses, demands a bribe, a facilitation fee, in exchange for allowing your business to operate legally. For many young entrepreneurs, this demand presents an agonizing dilemma. Do they compromise their principles and succumb to extortion, or do they stand their ground and risk seeing their hard work crumble before their eyes? This impossible choice is one faced by countless young Africans every single day, stifling innovation and perpetuating a vicious cycle of poverty and inequality. The consequences of this endemic corruption extend far beyond the individual. It undermines the very fabric of society, eroding trust in government institutions, hindering economic growth, and exacerbating social inequalities. When resources are siphoned away from essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure, it is the most vulnerable who suffer the most. Hospitals lack essential medicines, schools crumble for lack of maintenance, and roads remain unpaved, hindering access to markets and opportunities. The impact of corruption on Africa's youth is particularly devastating. With over 60% of the continent's population under the age of 25, Africa boasts the youngest population in the world. This demographic dividend holds immense potential for economic growth and social progress, but only if young people are empowered with access to quality education, decent jobs, and a level playing field. Yet corruption acts as an insidious barrier, robbing young Africans of their birthright to a brighter future. Imagine graduating at the top of your class, armed with a degree and a burning desire to contribute to your country's development. You apply for government jobs, only to discover that positions are often filled through nepotism and bribery. The most qualified candidates are often overlooked in favor of those with connections to power, leaving countless talented young people disillusioned and unemployed. This brain drain further perpetuates a cycle of mediocrity and undermines the continent's ability to compete on the global stage. The human cost of corruption is immeasurable. It's the young doctor forced to emigrate because they couldn't secure a hospital placement in their own country. It's the aspiring teacher who watches less qualified colleagues rise through the ranks through bribery, while their own commitment to integrity goes unrewarded. It's the entrepreneur who abandons their dreams, crushed by the weight of bureaucratic hurdles and demands for kickbacks. Despite the deeply entrenched nature of corruption in Africa, there is a glimmer of hope emerging from the shadows. Across the continent, a new generation of young Africans is rising up, refusing to accept corruption as an inevitability. Armed with technology, unwavering determination, and an unshakable belief in their continent's potential, these young changemakers are challenging the status quo and demanding a different future for themselves and generations to come. From the bustling tech hubs of Lagos to the vibrant streets of Nairobi, young entrepreneurs are leveraging innovation and technology to create solutions that bypass corrupt systems. They are developing mobile apps that promote transparency in government procurement, creating online platforms that connect citizens directly with essential services, and using data journalism to expose corruption and hold leaders accountable. This burgeoning youth movement is not just about fighting against something, it's about building a better future for Africa. It's about reclaiming their stolen future and creating a continent where integrity, accountability, and good governance prevail. They understand that the fight against corruption is not just a matter of economics, it's a fight for the soul of Africa. Young Africans carry the weight of expectation on their shoulders, the hope of their families, the aspirations of their communities, the dream of a continent poised for greatness. They are told they are the future, the generation that will usher in an era of prosperity and progress. But how can they build a brighter future when the very foundations of their societies are eroded by corruption? Imagine graduating with honors, your head brimming with knowledge and innovative ideas, only to find yourself relegated to the sidelines. The job market is a battlefield where connections and bribes often trump talent and hard work. Small businesses, the lifeblood of any economy, struggle to survive, choked by demands for kickbacks and unfair competition. The frustration is palpable, a simmering anger that threatens to boil over. The psychological toll of this reality is immeasurable. It breeds cynicism, apathy, and a sense of hopelessness. Why bother striving for a better future when the system is rigged against you? Why dream big when your dreams are repeatedly dashed against the rocks of corruption? This sense of disillusionment is perhaps the most insidious consequence of corruption, for it robs young people of their most valuable asset: hope. The consequences of widespread corruption extend far beyond individual frustrations. It creates a climate of fear and distrust, where citizens are afraid to speak out against injustice for fear of reprisal. Whistleblowers are silenced, journalists are intimidated, and activists are harassed or worse. This culture of impunity allows corruption to flourish unchecked, further entrenching the power of those who benefit from the status quo. For young people, this lack of accountability can be particularly disheartening. They see their leaders amassing wealth while basic services crumble around them. They witness firsthand the devastating impact of corruption on their communities: the dilapidated schools, the understaffed hospitals, the lack of basic infrastructure. It's a stark reminder that their futures are being held hostage by a system that prioritizes greed and self-interest over the common good. This stark reality fuels a sense of injustice and resentment, pushing some young people towards desperate measures. Some fall prey to criminal networks enticed by the promise of quick riches. Others join extremist groups seeking an outlet for their anger and frustration. The lack of economic opportunities, coupled with the pervasive sense of hopelessness, creates fertile ground for instability and conflict. Every year, governments across Africa make grand promises to tackle corruption. They launch anti-corruption campaigns, establish new institutions, and sign international agreements. Yet despite these pronouncements, corruption persists, often becoming even more sophisticated and entrenched. This disconnect between rhetoric and reality only serves to deepen the sense of cynicism and disillusionment among young people. The failure to address corruption effectively comes at a steep price. It discourages foreign investment, hinders economic growth, and undermines the rule of law. It perpetuates a vicious cycle of poverty and inequality, trapping millions in a life without opportunity or hope. And it is the youth who bear the brunt of this systemic failure, their futures mortgaged to pay for the sins of their elders. The fight against corruption is not just about recovering stolen funds or punishing corrupt officials. It's about restoring faith in institutions, rebuilding trust in government, and creating a level playing field where hard work and talent are rewarded. It's about empowering a new generation of leaders who prioritize integrity, accountability, and the common good. The frustration felt by Africa's youth is palpable. They are tired of empty promises, tired of being told to wait their turn, tired of seeing their dreams deferred. They are demanding action, not words. They are yearning for a future where meritocracy trumps cronyism, where integrity is valued above all else, and where the rule of law applies equally to all. This yearning for change is evident in the growing number of youth-led movements emerging across the continent. From the streets of Dakar to the townships of Johannesburg, young people are raising their voices, demanding an end to corruption and a say in their own future. They are organizing protests, launching online campaigns, and using the power of social media to expose wrongdoing and hold their leaders accountable. These young activists are not just fighting for themselves, they are fighting for the soul of their continent. They understand that corruption is not an abstract concept but a lived reality that affects every aspect of their lives. They are determined to break the cycle of impunity and create a better future for themselves and generations to come. The most visible and often discussed face of corruption is bribery. It seems straightforward. A simple transaction where money or favors exchange hands to circumvent rules or secure an unfair advantage. On the dusty streets of a bustling city, a street vendor might slip a few bills to an official hoping to avoid a fine for a minor infraction. In a dimly lit office, a businessman might offer a gift to a government minister, seeking a lucrative contract. These seemingly small acts of bribery, replicated countless times across the continent, create a corrosive effect. They erode the fundamental principles of fairness and equality, breeding cynicism and distrust in government institutions. The vendor, struggling to make ends meet, feels trapped in a system where survival depends on paying off corrupt officials. The honest entrepreneur, unwilling to compromise their integrity, loses out on opportunities, their hard work sabotaged by an uneven playing field. The true cost of a bribe extends far beyond the immediate transaction. It perpetuates a culture where rules are seen as flexible, where accountability is weak, and where those in power are more likely to serve their own interests than those of the people they are meant to represent. This climate of impunity creates a breeding ground for more insidious forms of corruption, allowing grand schemes of embezzlement and fraud to flourish unchecked. Corruption, however, is not merely a series of isolated bribes. It's a complex and insidious system, a web of interconnected actors and sophisticated schemes that operate at all levels of society, from the highest echelons of government to the everyday interactions between citizens and officials. Corruption has woven itself into the fabric of many African nations. Consider the construction of a much-needed hospital. On paper, the project holds the promise of improved health care for a community desperately lacking access to basic medical services. However, the seeds of corruption are often sown even before the first brick is laid. Inflated contracts awarded through rigged bidding processes line the pockets of corrupt officials and their cronies, leaving fewer resources available for essential medical equipment, qualified doctors, and life-saving medicines. This scenario plays out across various sectors: schools that remain unbuilt, roads that crumble soon after completion, and vital infrastructure projects that stall, leaving communities mired in poverty and despair. The money allocated for development, instead of uplifting the lives of citizens, disappears into a black hole of greed and self-enrichment. One of the most insidious aspects of corruption is its ability to cripple the very institutions designed to uphold the rule of law and ensure accountability. When the police force, tasked with enforcing the law, is riddled with corruption, citizens lose faith in their ability to seek justice or protection. A young woman, seeking to report a case of assault, might find herself facing demands for bribes from the very officers who swore to protect her. Similarly, when the judiciary, the supposed bastion of justice, is tainted by corruption, the legal system becomes a tool for the wealthy and powerful to protect their interests. Land grabs, where powerful individuals or corporations seize land from vulnerable communities with impunity, are a stark example of how corruption undermines the rule of law, leaving the poor and marginalized without recourse or protection. This erosion of trust in key institutions has a devastating impact on society as a whole. It creates a climate of fear and uncertainty, where citizens are hesitant to report crimes, challenge injustice, or demand accountability from their leaders. The fabric of society weakens, and the potential for progress is stifled. The complex nature of corruption is often compounded by a lack of transparency and accountability. Shell companies registered in offshore tax havens obscure the true beneficiaries of illicit financial flows, making it difficult to track down the perpetrators and recover stolen assets. Weak financial regulations and inadequate anti-money laundering measures provide further opportunities for corrupt officials and their accomplices to launder their ill-gotten gains, often investing them in luxury real estate, lavish lifestyles, and foreign bank accounts. The lack of transparency extends to government contracts and procurement processes. Without clear and accessible information about how public funds are being spent, it becomes incredibly difficult for citizens to hold their leaders accountable. This lack of accountability creates a breeding ground for impunity, allowing corruption to flourish unchecked. The fight against corruption requires a multi-pronged approach, strengthening institutions, promoting transparency, empowering citizens, and fostering a culture of accountability. It demands a collective effort, not just from governments and law enforcement agencies, but from citizens, civil society organizations, and the international community. Most importantly, it requires the unwavering commitment of Africa's youth, who deserve a future free from the scourge of corruption, a future where their dreams can take flight. Aisha, a bright young woman from Nairobi, held her business proposal close, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had poured her soul into this venture, a mobile app connecting farmers directly to consumers, cutting out exploitative middlemen and ensuring fair prices for all. Today was the day she would pitch her idea to a government agency offering grants to support innovative startups. Hours later, Aisha walked out of the government building, her shoulders slumped, the weight of disappointment heavy on her heart. The meeting hadn't gone as she'd hoped. Instead of focusing on the merits of her proposal, the official had steered the conversation toward a facilitation fee, a euphemism for a bribe. Aisha was faced with an agonizing dilemma: compromise her principles or abandon her dream. She believed in her idea, in its potential to make a real difference. But was she willing to sacrifice her integrity, to become complicit in the very system she sought to challenge? In a rural village in Senegal, Mr. Diop, a dedicated teacher with a heart of gold, faced a different manifestation of corruption's human cost. Passionate about nurturing young minds, he had dedicated his life to shaping the future of his students, believing that education was the key to unlocking their potential. His classroom, housed in a dilapidated building with leaking roofs and limited resources, was a testament to his commitment. Despite the challenges, Mr. Diop remained a beacon of hope for his students, his enthusiasm for learning contagious. However, Mr. Diop's dedication to his students came at a personal cost. Despite his qualifications and years of experience, He remained stuck in a lower-paying position, passed over for promotions year after year. He watched as less qualified colleagues, those willing to grease the palms of corrupt school administrators, climbed the ranks. The injustice of it all gnawed at him, a constant reminder of the systemic rot that plagued his beloved profession. Mr. Diop's story is not unique. Across Africa, countless teachers, nurses, doctors, and other public servants find themselves trapped in a system where their hard work and dedication are undervalued. This culture of bribery and nepotism not only demoralizes those who strive to serve their communities with integrity, but it also undermines the quality of essential services. In a vibrant art studio in Accra, Ghana, Kwame, a talented young musician, poured his heart into his music. His lyrics, a powerful blend of social commentary and soulful melodies, resonated with the struggles and aspirations of his generation. Kwame dreamt of using his music to inspire change, to amplify the voices of the voiceless, and to challenge the status quo. However, Kwame's artistic ambitions faced an insidious obstacle: self-censorship. He knew that speaking truth to power, particularly through his music, carried risks in a society where dissent was often met with repression. Corruption had created an environment of fear and self-censorship, silencing voices that dared to challenge the powerful. This internal struggle, this silencing of artistic expression, is another tragic manifestation of corruption's human cost. Dr. Adeola, a brilliant young physician from Lagos, Nigeria, had always dreamt of serving her community, of using her skills to heal the sick and improve the well-being of her people. She had excelled in medical school, driven by a deep sense of purpose and a genuine desire to make a difference. After years of rigorous training, she felt ready to embark on her life's mission. However, the reality of practicing medicine in a system plagued by corruption quickly shattered her idealism. The hospital where Dr. Adeola worked was woefully under-resourced. Essential medicines were in short supply, often diverted to private clinics owned by corrupt officials. Equipment malfunctioned, and basic supplies were scarce. The working conditions were demoralizing, and the constant reminders of the system's failings weighed heavily on her spirit. Patients suffered due to the lack of basic necessities, their lives hanging in the balance while corrupt officials profited from their misery. Disillusioned by the systemic corruption that crippled her ability to provide adequate care, Dr. Adeola made the heart-wrenching decision to join the growing exodus of skilled professionals fleeing their home countries in search of better opportunities abroad. Her story is not unique. Across Africa, the brain drain of doctors, nurses, engineers, and other professionals robs the continent of valuable human capital. Amidst the deeply concerning narratives of corruption's grip on Africa, a new generation is rising, empowered by technology and fueled by an unwavering belief in their continent's potential. This is not a generation content with inheriting the broken systems of the past. They are digital natives, fluent in the language of innovation and interconnectedness. Across Africa, tech hubs are buzzing with young programmers, entrepreneurs, and activists, developing innovative solutions to age-old problems. They are creating mobile applications that track government spending, making budgets and procurement processes transparent and accessible to citizens for the first time. These digital platforms empower communities to hold their leaders accountable, shining a light on corrupt practices that thrive in the shadows. In rural communities where access to information has long been a barrier, mobile phones are becoming powerful tools for transparency and accountability. Farmers are using mobile apps to report instances of extortion by corrupt officials demanding bribes for access to essential agricultural inputs. The fight against corruption in Africa is not solely confined to the digital realm. It's a movement gaining traction from the grassroots to the highest levels of governance. Across the continent, a new generation of leaders is emerging, committed to transparency, accountability, and good governance. They understand that corruption is not an abstract concept but a deeply ingrained system that demands a multi-pronged approach, tackling both the symptoms and the root causes. In Rwanda, a nation that has undergone a remarkable transformation since the horrors of the 1994 genocide, the government has made tackling corruption a top priority. By streamlining bureaucratic processes, embracing digital technologies and fostering a culture of accountability, Rwanda has made significant strides in curbing corruption. The country's success demonstrates that change is possible, even in contexts marked by historical trauma and deep-seated challenges. This commitment to good governance is spreading across the continent. Transparency lies at the heart of any successful effort to combat corruption. When citizens are empowered with access to information about how their governments operate, how resources are allocated, and how decisions are made, they can hold those in power accountable for their actions. Across Africa, investigative journalists are playing a crucial role in exposing corruption, often at great personal risk. Armed with the tools of their trained meticulous research, relentless pursuit of the truth, and a commitment to holding the powerful accountable, these journalists are shining a light on the dark underbelly of corruption. Their work is not without its challenges. Journalists investigating corruption often face intimidation, threats, and violence. Yet, despite these risks, investigative journalists across Africa continue to pursue the truth, driven by a deep sense of responsibility to their craft and a belief in the power of journalism to effect positive change. The fight against corruption in Africa is not just about exposing wrongdoing or punishing the corrupt, it's about shifting mindsets, challenging deeply ingrained norms, and fostering a culture of integrity and accountability. It's about changing the narrative, from one of despair and resignation to one of hope, empowerment, and the belief that a different future is possible. This shift in narrative is being driven by young Africans who refuse to accept corruption as an inevitability. They are organizing marches, protests, and online campaigns, demanding an end to impunity and calling for a new era of ethical leadership. They are using art, music, and poetry to express their frustrations, share their stories, and inspire others to join the movement for change. This burgeoning movement is not just about demanding change from those in power. It's about young Africans taking ownership of their future, leading by example, and demonstrating that integrity, accountability, and a commitment to the common good are not just lofty ideals, but achievable goals. We've journeyed through the dark heart of a continent grappling with a silent crisis, a crisis that has for too long stifled dreams, shattered potential, and robbed generations of their birthright to a brighter future. We've seen how corruption, like a parasitic vine, has wrapped its tendrils around every aspect of society, from the highest levels of government to the most mundane interactions between citizens and officials. The entrepreneur forced to choose between their integrity and their dreams, the teacher's dedication overshadowed by a culture of bribery, the artist silenced by fear, the doctor driven to seek a better future on distant shores. These are the human faces of corruption's devastating toll. But amidst the despair, a glimmer of hope emerges. A new generation is rising, a generation unwilling to accept corruption as an inevitability. For too long, the narrative surrounding Africa has been dominated by tales of poverty, conflict, and corruption. This narrative, often perpetuated by external forces with vested interests in maintaining the status quo, has overshadowed the continent's vibrant cultures, its spirit of innovation, and the immense potential of its youthful population. The time has come to reclaim the narrative, to shift the focus from a narrative of despair to one of hope, resilience, and the power of human agency to effect positive change. The fight against corruption is not just about eradicating a societal ill, it's about reclaiming Africa's narrative, about defining the continent's future on its own terms. This new narrative is being written by young Africans who refuse to be defined by the challenges they inherit. They are proof that Africa's future is not predetermined, it is being shaped by those who dare to dream of a brighter tomorrow. The fight against corruption is not a battle that can be won by governments or institutions alone. It requires a collective effort, a groundswell of action from citizens across the continent and beyond. It demands that we amplify the voices of those on the front lines, the activists, journalists, entrepreneurs, and everyday citizens who are challenging the status quo and demanding a better future. Supporting organizations working to promote transparency, empower citizens, and strengthen institutions is crucial. Your donations can provide resources for investigative journalism, legal aid for victims of corruption, and training programs for future leaders committed to ethical governance. Every contribution, no matter how small, can make a difference. By promoting good governance, transparency, and the rule of law, we can create an international environment that makes it more difficult for corruption to thrive. The fight against corruption in Africa is not just a matter of policy reforms or institutional strengthening, it's about igniting a revolution of integrity, a fundamental shift in values and norms that permeates all levels of society. It's about fostering a culture where honesty, accountability, and a commitment to the common good are not just aspirational values, but guiding principles that shape behavior and decision-making. This revolution of integrity will not happen overnight. It requires a sustained effort, a commitment to nurturing a new generation of leaders who prioritize ethical leadership. It requires that we celebrate and support those who dare to stand up for what is right, even when it's difficult, even when it's dangerous. The future of Africa belongs to those who believe in the power of integrity, who refuse to be silenced by fear or apathy. Let us join hands and ignite a revolution of integrity that will illuminate the path toward a brighter future for Africa and its people.